I want to be honest with you about the title of this video. I am not claiming this comes from a scientific study, and I am not presenting it as medical advice. What I am sharing comes from something different. Years of observing older adults, paying attention to the people around me, and noticing the difference between those who simply grow older and those who seem to stay capable, engaged, and independent well into later life. What I can tell you is that the question behind the number is one I find genuinely interesting, which is, what does it actually look like to be aging well, in practical, observable, daily terms, rather than in the clinical terms that tend to show up in conversations about health after 60? That is the question I want to answer today, from my own experience and observation, rather than from any authority I do not have. These are 7 things that I believe, based on what I have seen in my own life and in the lives of the women around me, indicate that a person is aging with more capability and more engagement than many people their age. I am not saying that you have failed if you cannot do all of them. I am saying that if you can, you are doing something right, and it is worth knowing what that is. I should also say, the list I'm about to give you is not about athleticism or appearance or any of the things that aging often gets reduced to in conversations about health. It is about the quality and texture of daily life, the things that are still happening, the things that are still possible. Leave a comment as we go if you recognize yourself in any of them, or if there's something you would add. The first thing is that you still cook real meals for yourself. Not every day necessarily, and not elaborately, but regularly, deliberately, with actual ingredients that you have thought about and chosen and prepared with some degree of care. This matters more than it might appear to, for a reason that I have come to understand fairly clearly over the years. Cooking is one of the most complex routine activities that a person does, and it remains complex even when it becomes familiar. It requires planning a day or two ahead, navigating a grocery store with a purpose, making decisions about nutrition and preference, sequencing tasks in the kitchen, using tools with precision, and then cleaning up. Every one of those smaller tasks calls on cognitive, physical, and organizational capacities that are genuinely worth maintaining. When cooking disappears from someone's routine, it rarely disappears for good reasons. It disappears because the planning feels like too much, or because the standing and the preparation have become difficult, or because eating alone does not feel worth the effort. Each of those reasons is significant, and each one points to something that deserves attention. Conversely, a woman of 70 who cooks a proper dinner for herself 3 or 4 nights a week is demonstrating, without meaning to, that a remarkable number of her capacities are still intact and in use. I cook every day, not always something elaborate, often something very simple, but the act of deciding what I want, gathering what I need, and preparing it with some attention to how it will taste and how the kitchen will smell while I'm making it, is one of the daily practices I hold on to most deliberately, because I understand its value now in a way I did not when I was younger, and it required no thought at all. The second thing is that you can get up from the floor without using your hands. I want to be specific here rather than general, because this particular movement is one of the most reliable physical indicators I know of how someone is actually doing. Getting from the floor to standing, unassisted, requires the integrated use of leg strength, core stability, balance, and coordination. It is not a party trick. It is a functional movement that matters in daily life because people who live alone need to be able to manage it if something goes wrong. And the gradual loss of the ability to do it often happens slowly enough that it is not noticed until it has become significant. I get down on the floor regularly, not for any formal exercise, but because I clean the lower cabinets that way, and because I think staying comfortable on the floor and rising from it easily is something worth practicing. A woman who can still do this at 70 or 75 or 80 has maintained a degree of physical capability that is genuinely meaningful, and I think she deserves to know it. There's also something I want to say about the floor specifically that goes beyond the physical. People who are comfortable on the floor, who sit on it, who work at floor level without hesitation, have a relationship with the physical space of their home that people who avoid the floor have lost. The floor is part of the house. Being at ease on it is a form of being at ease in your own body, within your own space. I think about this when I clean the baseboards on my knees, or when I sit on the floor of the living room to reach the lower shelves of the bookcase. It is a small thing. It tells me something. The third thing is that you walk regularly, not as a scheduled exercise session, but as a simple daily habit. There's a difference between walking as exercise, which is a deliberate, often tracked, discrete activity, and walking as a way of being in the world, which is the kind of walking I mean. If your daily life involves walking as part of how things get done, whether to the store or through the garden, or simply because the afternoon invited it and you accepted the invitation, your body and mind are receiving something that scheduled exercise sessions cannot fully replicate: continuous, gentle engagement with the physical world throughout the day, rather than in a concentrated burst. I have walked almost every day for as long as I can remember. Not long distances, not with any equipment, not with any goal beyond being outside and moving. On the days when I do not, I feel the absence, not dramatically, but perceptibly. The body has an expectation of movement, and when that expectation is met as a matter of course, rather than as an act of discipline, something about the day is simply better. If you enjoy this channel and want to support my work, just look directly below the video player, right next to the subscribe button, and click the button that says join. That is how you become a Smart Organizer. Smart Organizers members get exclusive videos, a loyalty badge in the comments, and custom channel emojis. I would love to have you there. The fourth thing is that you maintain at least one friendship that requires genuine effort. Not a friendship of convenience or proximity, not a relationship that persists because you happen to see someone regularly, but a friendship that you actively tend, one where you reach out, make plans, show up, remember things, and invest something of yourself on an ongoing basis. Friendships like this do not maintain themselves. And the ones that people let go of most often in later years are precisely these, the ones that require effort. Because effort is a resource that can feel scarce. The reason I consider this a marker of aging well is not sentimental. It is because maintaining a genuine friendship requires a whole cluster of capacities that are worth preserving. The ability to listen and respond with real attention. The ability to hold someone else's circumstances in your mind over time. the willingness to be known and to know someone in return, and the fundamental belief that you are worth knowing and that other people are worth the investment. These are capacities of a person who is still engaged with the world. Their absence tends to reveal itself in the quality of a person's days in ways that eventually become visible. I want to say something about what this looks like in practice, because I think the word friendship sometimes gets discussed in abstract terms that do not capture how specific and concrete the actual requirement is. The friendship I am describing is one where you know the details of another person's current life, not just their history. You know what they're worried about this month. You know what happened with their daughter's situation that you heard about 3 weeks ago. You ask about it when you speak next. That kind of knowledge does not accumulate passively. It requires showing up to the relationship in an ongoing and attentive way. And the maintenance of the capacity to do that is, I would argue, one of the clearest signs of a person who is still fully present in their own life. The fifth thing is that you are curious about something specific, not broadly interested in the world in a vague theoretical way, but genuinely engage with a particular subject or question or practice that you are actively learning about or developing. This can be anything: a garden, a language, a period of history, a craft, a recipe tradition. The point is not the subject, but the quality of engagement, that there is something in your life that draws you forward, that has questions still unanswered, that gives you a reason to be interested in tomorrow in a way that is specific rather than general. I am curious what this looks like for you specifically. Is there something you are currently learning or exploring that pulls you forward in the way I'm describing? Leave a comment and tell me. I find that the specific answers are always more interesting than the general ones. In my own observation, the people who age most visibly well are consistently people who have something they are still learning. They talk about it with a specific quality of aliveness that is different from contentment or satisfaction, because it is not about what they have achieved, but about what they are still reaching toward. That quality does not diminish with age unless the curiosity is allowed to. And curiosity, I have come to believe, is one of the things most worth deliberately protecting. The sixth thing, and the one I will admit I think about the most because it is so close to what this channel is about, is that you still tend your living space with intention. Not perfectly, not at any particular standard, but with the ongoing, daily, modest investment that says, this is my space, and I am still here in it, and it deserves my attention. The bed is made because you made it. The kitchen is wiped down because you wiped it. The room is arranged in a way that reflects your preferences because you arranged it with those preferences in mind. This matters because the alternative to tending your space with intention is not having a less tidy house. It is a withdrawal from the relationship between yourself and where you live. And that withdrawal, when it becomes sustained, is almost always a symptom of something else. Exhaustion, depression, isolation, or a quiet belief that the effort is no longer worth making. I have seen it in others, and I have felt the early edges of it in myself in certain periods. And I treat it seriously when I notice it, because I understand what it is pointing at. If you are not yet subscribed to this channel, I would genuinely love to have you here. I post regularly on topics exactly like this one, and the subscribe button is just below. The seventh thing is that you still make plans. Not grand plans necessarily, not 5-year designs for the future, but near plans, specific ones. Things that are on the calendar or in your mind as things you are going to do. A visit, a project, a dinner, a trip to the botanical garden when the tulips come in. The presence of these near future points in your life is not trivial. It is a form of forward orientation that keeps the present connected to something ahead. And the absence of it, the life that is only and entirely in the present with nothing anticipated, has a quality of contraction that I have observed is not always a conscious choice. Making plans requires believing, at some level, that the future is worth preparing for, that you will be there for it, that your presence in it matters. It requires practical engagement with time. I have noticed in myself and in women around me that the capacity to make plans and the state of one's general well-being tend to move together. The woman who has 3 things she is looking forward to in the next month is not the same as the woman who has none, and the difference is visible before you even speak to her. I make plans every week, small ones mostly, but they are there and they do their work quietly by connecting me to the days ahead rather than leaving me in an undifferentiated present. Tell me in the comments which of these 7 things you are still doing and which one surprised you most to see on the list. I read every comment, and these conversations always take me somewhere I was not expecting to go. I want to add something before I close about the relationship between these 7 things. They are not independent. They connect to each other in ways that make the whole greater than the parts. The woman who still cooks real meals has reasons to tend her kitchen, which connects to how she tends her home, which connects to her sense that her daily life is worth investing in. The woman who maintains a genuine friendship has someone to make plans with, which connects to her forward orientation. The woman who is curious about something has something to talk about when the friendship requires conversation. These things hold each other up. You do not have to have all 7 to benefit from any of them. But I have noticed that they tend to cluster together in the people who are, by any honest measure, doing well. I want to say in closing that this list is not meant as a measure to fall short of. It is meant as a map of what still being here, genuinely here, looks and feels like. All 7 of these things are choices, in the sense that they require some degree of ongoing intention to maintain. And the intention to maintain them is itself a form of engagement with the life you are living, which is perhaps the most fundamental thing of all. If this is your first time here, I would love to have you subscribe. The button is just below. I will see you in the next one.